Excuse me, for I am the ocean.
And I will starve for you.
No power in the verse can stop me.
The Hudson River, 2 years ago.
What's going on, guys? My name is El De Niro, and welcome to episode 15, unfortunately, of The Midnight Hour. I say unfortunately because today is Friday the 13th when you're watching or listening to this, and it just would have been perfect had this fallen on the number 13. But we're going to talk about superstitions because from episode 13, a lot of people told us to talk about superstitions. So that's what we're doing. And a weird thing I want to say that happened to me after we recorded episode 13, myself and Jack, who is obviously my co-host. You already know this stuff.
Stop.
But we recorded the coincidences one, and as soon, like at the start of the coincidences one, Jack made a joke about me being afraid of the number 13, and it was just one of those things that happened. And then after we were finished recording, I went to load up my internet browser, and my homepage is Google, and it said at the very bottom of Google, can you spell triskaidekaphobia, which is the fear of the number 13? That's a coincidence. After we were recording a podcast about coincidences, my browser said, fuck you and your coincidences. So that's a thing that happened. But
I still think that it's wonderfully ironic and unlucky for us to be doing the 15th podcast and be basically 2 weeks out of hitting the 13th podcast on Friday the 13th.
I know.
We really should have planned for this, but I think that encapsulates the way that we do things, really.
Yeah, especially considering like we started this call 17 minutes ago, according to Skype, and we just decided to talk about, oh yeah, we'll go with Friday the 13th. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. This is literally how much planning that goes into each episode for us.
Yeah, like it's actually, it's not even good. Like it's a little bit like,
no,
it's
awful.
something that
we're bad at this. I don't know why you people listen.
Yeah, we are really bad at this. Like we're just not good. I don't know. Our skill seems to be being able to talk about anything. Yeah, like and just going off topic, and I don't know. But it's like I didn't even prepare a question to ask you guys for the start of this episode. So
there you go. Right, I've got one. What's the unluckiest thing that's ever happened to you? There you go.
Oh, that's a good one.
That'll do. Seeing as we're doing this around superstition and Friday the 13th and bad luck.
What's yours, out of interest? Can you even think of it?
No, I can't really. I can't really think of anything particularly unlucky in the moment. If
there was
I remember
one time,
at any point, I'll say so.
One time I made a podcast, like I just decided to start a podcast series, and we did episode 13, and then when episode 15 came around, it wasn't the 13th episode, and that was kind of unlucky.
Oh, how awful. So bad.
I know.
Yeah.
So Friday the 13th, did anything unlucky happen to any of you today? Obviously it doesn't apply to us because we're actually doing this in advance. This is the most advanced we've ever been.
Yeah, I think so.
In terms of our preparation, which is kind of funny as well because we haven't done any preparation. But Friday the 13th is specifically unlucky for Western society. It's not really a thing in Asia as far as I'm aware, and even certain areas of Western society don't have Friday the 13th. In Spanish speaking countries it's Tuesday the 13th, and in Italian, well, I think it's just in Italian, in Italy in general, it's Friday the 17th is unlucky. And basically it's all a load of bollocks. Like I tried to look up some statistics for triskaidekaphobia, which is just fear of the number 13. We don't know where the idea of Friday the 13th being unlucky came from. Like we tried having a look, and there's so many different ideas that I think someone just, like mashed them all together and said.
It seems to just be, that the number 13's been unlucky for a long time. And the day of Friday has been unlucky for a long time, and so someone just went, fuck it, we'll mash them together and make a super unlucky day for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, and people have tried to come up with like the idea that Jesus was the 13th person to have sat at the table of the Last Supper, which isn't referenced in the Bible at all, so that's definitely not true. There's another one about the crucifixion of Jesus, or that happened on a Friday, supposedly, even though there's no way that you could prove that it happened on a Friday. It's just that the day allocated for commemorating it is on the Friday. There was a guy who said that Wall Street on Friday the 13th, like the Wall Street panic and all of that stuff in 1907 happened, and that has something to do with it. But in all honesty, it's probably just one of those things that somebody just decided to fucking make up, and it caught on for whatever reason. And that seems to be how superstition works, really. Have we even got anything else to say about Friday the 13th? And
I'm not really sure. I think it is just one of those kind of a snowball effect kind of bullshit things. I know that I'd equate it to, you know, everyone hears the thing of over in the course of a year you'll eat 6 spiders in your sleep.
Yes.
You know that one.
Yeah.
That fact, quote unquote fact, was actually made up by a psychologist to see how quickly false information spread on the internet.
Yeah, to prove how gullible people are, essentially. Like, and to use a mass communication device. Well, you know,
it was email, wasn't it, at the beginning, or you know, in the 90s? She used email.
It was in like 94 or something that came up, wasn't it? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'd equate, you know, Friday the 13th to that. Someone, you know, because say you point out that today's an unlucky day, and then something unlucky happens to you, bang, you know, you're kind of thinking, oh, it's because it's an unlucky day.
Yeah.
You know, and add on, you know, Friday the 13th isn't the first superstition. There's plenty that came before it. So add on, you know, looking out for black cats and things like that, and you're quickly building up the idea that there's a lot to be looking out for, especially on Friday the 13th when you're looking out for it.
Yeah, and that's what makes superstition so interesting, I think, is that it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where if you think negatively, you'll have a negative life. Like, and that's not me saying, like, I think negatively, and I don't have an overly negative life, but like I don't have an overly positive one either, and that's just because I don't have a positive outlook, and that's sort of just the way things happen for me. But if you think you're having, like, I mean, what even is luck? Luck is not a thing. Like, there's no such thing as luck. It doesn't actually exist. Like, all that exists is statistical probability, and you know, just what's that word? It's like happenstance. Is that even a real word, or is that one of those?
I think it might be. Yeah, it might be something like happenstance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all there is. Like,
yeah, I mean, the only thing that comes with luck is when you notice, say, when you're gambling and you're on a winning streak, you know, your luck is good, whereas that's just how the statistics are falling, and you know how it's a statistical anomaly, if anything, a winning streak, and especially in gambling.
That was last night. The lottery in this country was 12 million euros, and I put on a few lines on the lottery, and it was the first time I've done it in years, because I used to do like 80 euros a week on lottery tickets. I had a stable income, like, and a job at the time, and it wasn't an addiction either, and I know that it wasn't because I just stopped once I quit my job. Like,
it was just spare cash.
Yeah, I was playing a game, really. Like, I figured out a system where every single week in the Irish lottery, like, there was something like 2 even numbers below 25 and 1 odd number below it, and then 2 odds over 25 and 1 even over it, something like that. And I could just figure it out. And there was one spell in the midst of all of this spending where I was making my money back from little winnings here and there, and you know, winning tickets and stuff, so I didn't actually have to spend anything for a few weeks. And it was interesting how it all worked out. But my problem that leads to superstition, and I think this sort of hints to the psychology behind superstition, is that I had the same numbers that I would pick every single week. So when I decided to stop doing it, I had to not look at the numbers that came up, because
if you saw your numbers coming up, it would. Yeah.
That's.
Like, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like that's the, like, it's as if it's the universe giving you the middle finger. Like,
it's like, I you know, I've said before that you know, I do enjoy a game of roulette, even though it's the most ridiculous game, because it's literally you against a ball, and it's, you know, you know, your odds of winning are awful.
And but, it's not even a real ball most of the time.
No, exactly, but you know, just never kind of stick around after you've run out of money, or after you've decided to take your winnings and walk away. You know, never stick around, because you stick around for a couple of turns, and all of a sudden the number you've been, you know, playing off, or the number you've been favouring turns up, and you know, you miss out on X amount of money, and you'll be kicking yourself for it, even if you've come out with winnings, you know.
Yeah, that's the psychology of addiction, is when you play to win to play, it's called. It's what happens when you you don't actually care about winning. You care about playing the game. Like it's just the way that it is. Everything about it releases those
endorphins.
Positive endorphins in your brain, and it's just a side of your brain that deals with addiction, and that's how a gambling addiction is formed. And that's how I knew that mine wasn't an addiction. It was just I wasn't really happy with where I was, and I just wanted to become a millionaire pretty much. But every now and then I become obsessed with it's not really that I become obsessed with money, it's just that I become obsessed with how to get a lot of it, and I try different things. And like in terms of superstition, I'm not really the most superstitious person in the world, but I can equate a lot of things to, you know what I mean, like if I think really greedily about this, I won't win, so I need to just do a light bet and then take that money and try and bet cleverly or whatever. And a lot of the superstition I feel comes from gambling. I assume it'd be the same for you as well.
I don't think superstition enters my life on a day-to-day basis, not in terms of looking out for ladders and not walking, crossing black cats, and crossing people on the stairs is one I've heard as well.
Really?
Which I've always found ridiculous, because what am I meant to do? Wait for people to come down to the bottom of the stairs before I can start going up?
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous. But just things like that. It doesn't. None of it bothers me. I mean, what is walking across the path of a black cat gonna do to me?
Yeah, it's funny because my mum actually thinks that if you see a black cat, it's good luck. So it's like every time she sees one, she's like, "Oh, there's a black cat. That's good luck." And I'm always like, "No, it's
you what?
It's bad luck." And she's like, "No, I'm pretty sure it's good luck." She's just convinced herself of that, and then I don't know. That also sort of hints with how it's a load of bullshit, because you think about it one way. There is one thing that I actually will admit that I still feel a little superstitious about, and that's the You know how magpies is one for sorrow, two for joy. If there's one magpie in my garden, I just can't have him there. Like I have to open the window and close it really hard so that he flies away. Like I just hate there being one there, because it's like I'm leaving him there, and it's not even. It is superstition, because the way that I think about it isn't, oh, there's a magpie there, that's bad luck. The way I think about it is, there's a magpie there, that's one for sorrow, that's the thing, that's bullshit, that doesn't exist. But I'm afraid.
Off anyway,
I'm afraid that fate will,
tempting fate.
Yeah, exactly. Which is another thing I don't even believe in. That's why I find the whole idea of superstition really interesting, is that it does just become a self-fulfilling thing. If you get obsessed with something, you'll let it affect you where it really shouldn't. And I find it interesting that as humans, like, we've come so far with all of this technology and all, and we haven't really figured out how to think rationally about a lot of things.
I mean, I was saying to you before we started the podcast, that people in charge of things like building aircraft and building skyscrapers and stuff skip out the 13th floor or the 13th row in the aircraft and things like that. And these are intelligent people. These are intelligent, logical, assumingly well balanced people that are building these things, but they still skip out the number 13 for what? Hearsay? A superstition,
or even just that they're skipping it out to make allowances for the people who are afraid of it. Like, I guess it's probably an airliner requirement, because for some reason flying is seen as so dangerous in comparison to everything else. Like, maybe it's just something like that, but I don't get how. Like, I just tried googling the statistics for triskaidekaphobia, and I couldn't find anything for how many people in the world are supposedly suffering from it. Maybe there's something on the Wikipedia page, I don't know, but like, I've never met anybody who suffers from triskaidekaphobia, and I've never met anybody who even knows anybody who suffers from it. That's the phobia of the number 13, by the way. It's where we already discussed phobias before on the podcast, but I don't like, I kind of just have my doubts that it's a real thing, I'm sure there are people who suffer from it, and that's a shame, but I don't know how to really explain what I mean. It's not that I'm looking down on them for doing it or anything like that. It's just, I don't get it. And I know that it's an irrational thing and I'm not supposed to get it because I don't suffer from it. But, like, why specifically that number? It has to be one of those things that's conditioned onto you, like, I think, because just why not any other number? Why specifically the number 13?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, read a couple of things that it stems from there being 12 months in the year and the 13th month and things like that, and just circumstance really has led to this massive superstition surrounding the number 13. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no logical reasoning behind Friday the number 13 being unlucky. It's just something that's been conditioned into people over the last couple hundred years, or like a few hundred years.
I'd say maybe a lot of people were maybe feeling the same way about that. Like maybe we were in the 70s or whatever, we were probably coming around to the idea that it wasn't actually that bad, and then Apollo 13 happened, which is just like, of all the things that would like all the other Apollos were like whatever, and then Apollo 13 just happens to be the one that crashes or whatever happened to it, and that's just, I guess maybe that just because that was the 70s. Like, weren't they all afraid of Satanism and everything in the 70s? And the Russians as well. Like, they probably just had this conditioned fear about everything, and the fact that Apollo 13 failed in the way that it did would have led people to think like, oh well, that's just typical because it's the 13th one, obviously it was going to fail, and maybe that's why. But I think I'd make an estimation that, say, the next generation of people, like, the levels of triskaidekaphobia will be at an all-time low before it became a thing, because obviously before it was a thing there was none. But I'd love to know kind of the history of it without having to read a big book about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
without having to read deep into tangibly connected things. I mean, you could go into tangents and forever and ever into various superstitions and phobias that are linked to other superstitions and phobias, and all which influence each other in some minuscule way and go back for centuries.
Yeah, like, I need a Discovery Channel guy who's an expert on triskaidekaphobia to just explain it to me in simplistic terms. Give
it to me in a half-hour program, and then let's call it quits from there.
Sandwich it in between 2 episodes of Ancient Aliens so that I can get my fix of all the things that I love in the world. But I don't know, it's all just, I don't really understand. Should we talk about some other superstitions? I nearly said phobias.
Let's go through some.
The mirror one, the idea that you break a mirror you get 7 years bad luck. That's I think this comes from the idea that the mirror is actually harboring a piece of your soul. It's like it's more than your reflection. So when you look at it, you don't just see you see the intangible things that make you. It's not just
the reflection of you, it's the reflection of yourself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to.
That does make sense.
I think
like
there's a lot of emphasis on the words there. Like, I can't tweet that. Like, no one will understand if they just read it unless you actually.
Yeah,
it's one of those things, but
bold and italics on the self. But why 7 years? And why
not 13 years?
Yeah, that would make more sense. I grew up believing in this. But I don't know how much I did. Like, I was always just told, you break a mirror, it's 7 years bad luck, jokingly. But I guess I just was the type of person that, in any ordinary situation wouldn't want to break a mirror anyway. So, like, I think that's a pretty normal and rational thing, to not want to smash a piece of glass and like damage yourself, like cut yourself, whatever it is. So I just don't know where that came from. Like, there must have been a time where everyone was fucking smashing mirrors all over the place.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always been kind of not only the kind of I'll break a mirror, 7 years bad luck. Then there's also been remedies for the bad luck. You take the pieces of mirror and you I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head certain things, but it's like like you grind up the mirror in like the shards that you broke into like a powder or whatever, and then you've not got 7 years bad luck.
You take it with some Jägermeister and Red Bull.
Yeah. You roll up 100 and sniff that bitch, like, there's always been remedies for it, and where these remedies for luck stand from stem from, sorry, are, you know, as dubious as the idea that breaking a mirror will get you bad luck, and then crushing it up and snorting it, you
Yeah.
know, is the way to fix that. But
It's just as logical though as, you know, like if you want to apply this weird sort of tainted logic to the superstition that if you break, it's just as logical to say, yeah, well, you know, if you just snort the shards of it, what's that? Like I don't know, it's really weird. And like I have this list in front of me of silly superstitions from livescience.com, and there's one that says the number 666, and this is really a weird one that I have seen people be genuinely sensitive to, and I don't really think that this is superstition as much as it's a genuine fear inside them of Satan. And do you know what I mean? Like
I remember I kind of remember where this stems from, where this 666 stems from.
It's the sign of the end times.
Yeah, and the mark of Satan, but it stems from it was either a hieroglyphic or I can't remember what the word for it. It was in a scroll they found in Israel, I think. And it was mistranslated. And
really?
Recently, within the last few years, they actually translated it again, and the number was actually 616.
Oh, I've actually heard that before.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm spouting hearsay and bullshit here, but I'm pretty sure I saw this on an episode of QI. So I'm going with gospel. But so this kind of 666 is actually wrong. You know, it's actually 616 that everyone should be afraid of. Really,
I still think a lot like the way people have designated the Friday to commemorate Good Friday, or the crucifixion. I think if they've designated this number as the number of the beast, I still think it's sort of fair enough that they try and avoid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in their minds, that's the one that they've come up with, like as it were. Like it doesn't really have to, like, I mean, not like you can't really take everything you see in the Bible as proper anyway. Cause, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of it is actually just metaphor and like tales of morality and whatever. Like, that's why I find the 666 thing is really weird. Like, I remember Nep used to have one of his FIFA, I think it was on his Road to Glory, or maybe it was just his Ruin Randomer account or whatever. One of his teams was called 666. I think that was the way you write an abbreviation, like 3 letters or 3 characters. He just wrote 666, and like he legitimately got some people who were like, dude, like that. Not, they weren't offended, but they were just really sensitive to it. Like, why are you doing that? Like, people are sort of have this rampant fear of Satanism when you've grown up with a highly Christian background, and I think that's. I don't think it's weird. I think it's interesting how that works out, because you have a sort of villain in your life if that's the case, and you're avoiding this thing for seemingly like legitimate purposes. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're actually terrified by the number of it, and that's really weird to me.
Yeah, I kind of think that Christianity has often and for a long time stood alongside the ideas of, kind of the idea of the model people, as it were. Model families, model individuals. It's stood alongside that for a long time. I'm not saying that it's stood alongside kind of the establishment, as it were, but I think that's why it's often picked up by things that are anti normality or abnormal. That's the better word.
Abnormal,
things that are abnormal. Satanism, and even just kind of metal music. Iron Maiden, with the song Number of the Beast, and things like that. It's easy to pick up this kind of almost anti-establishment and anti-normality symbol and just run with it, and I think that has also built a lot around it as well.
Yeah, I think I kind of explained on my channel before that I don't come from a highly Christian background, but I had a lot of Christian elements in my growing up. Like, the first 2 schools that I went to were heavily like just Catholic, ideologies, and I remember the first time like I listened to fucking Chop Suey by System of a Down, just how dangerous it felt, and how they don't explicitly state anywhere that they worship the devil, but Darren from System of a Down, like his look, everything about him, he looked like he was trying to be some kind of a demon, and the way that they weaved in and out of each other in the video of that, where they used the special effects for their bodies to just go through each other.
Yeah.
And it was all just really weird. And I remember there was like the last day of school every year, you just got to have a bit of a laugh. You could bring in like footballs and CDs, and like one of the guys brought in I think it was like the Bloodhound Gang or something. And oh no, there was the Bloodhound Gang, and they had a reference to 666 in one of their songs. That's the one, The Roof is on Fire, where it's like, if man is 5 and the devil is 6, then that must make me 7, or if God is 5, I can't remember. But there was that Slipknot song, the Heretic Anthem. If you're 555, then I'm 666.
Yeah.
And like we had that on, and our teacher was she was a substitute, and I think she was like a pretty devout Christian, because she used to make us say a prayer every morning. Like most teachers did, but most teachers didn't give a fuck. But she really cared, and she just made us turn it off. And it's like, you're spreading Satanism to our kids, and it was really weird. Like looking back on it now, that sounds like a story that I would tell you, you know, if I grew up in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that really weird? That.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I find that really odd. Do you know what? Actually, I think the modern equivalent to that is the Illuminati.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone will remember, but I started an Ultimate Team series in around when FIFA 14 came out, and it was just called the Ultimate Team, and I did about 50 episodes, and I called my team Illuminati.
Illuminati, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's an awesome play on words, and I think, like, you know,
I've always appreciated a good pun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than El De Niro Army, like,
yeah.
or whatever. So I wrote Illuminati, and then I put, for a split second, a picture of the Illuminati on the screen, like one of their symbols with the, you know, the hand triangle thing that they do with the eye looking through it. And a lot of people were actually legitimately freaked out by it, and someone commented on it quite recently saying, Illuminati, is that a joke? And I don't know if I don't know what that comment is, like if it's genuine fear or if it's confusion or what, but a lot of people were just a little bit put off by it, like you know, they actually thought that and another guy once commented on my Ask FM and asked if Codaline were a member of the Illuminati, because on their font on their logo, it looks like a Masonic piece of text, because you know the Masons and the Illuminati, they're all in this together.
Yep.
But I think that's the modern thing for 666. Like I think in the future there'll be a lot of people from this generation who feel a little bit uneasy at the thought of any, you know, Illuminati reference. Like
I think we should start a kind of a movement towards putting that emphasis on Scientology.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
I think that's the next step in the movement.
I think we're not far off that, to be fair.
No, that's true.
Scientology is like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing, because they take so much money from people. I think that's the weirdest part of it all.
Yeah. Well, Mormonism has takes 30% of the yearly paycheck from its members, doesn't it?
Does it really?
Or something like that. Either that, or I'm sprouting bullshit again.
No, but like, you know, you've obviously got
that's
the
I've got that number from somewhere. You know, I'm not just pulling that out my arse, but
it's probably the lyrics of a Brandon Flowers song or something.
Yeah.
I thought, is there any superstitions that have grabbed you
actually, like, you know, I've got this list from Live Science up as well, and you know, it's number 5 is knock on wood, and I said earlier I don't count myself as superstitious and that I don't follow any in my day-to-day life, but yeah, I knock on wood. Yeah,
that's
like,
you say something like touch wood.
You know, yeah, touch wood, you know, and then you tap your cock, you know. Oh, that's awful.
The call just dropped for like a split second.
Oh, you missed that. There we go. It's alright. It wasn't that funny. It wasn't that funny anyway.
I'm gonna hear it when you send me the audio.
Yeah, it's true. But you know, like, you know, I'll do the whole touch wood, knock on wood thing. I don't believe it does anything. It's just a saying to me, you know.
Yeah.
It's not an actual. I don't actually believe it. It's just a saying. It's just a thing that I do. It's just a. You know, it's just a reaction.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who do it, and if they're not around wood, they look around frantically for any kind of wood.
I wouldn't say like I desperately need to, you know, actually knock on wood. It's just kind of like a saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you know, touch wood.
There's sort of a similar enough one to that, I think. Well, I guarantee it comes from the same part of the brain. Is that if I have ever told anybody anything and they've doubted me, I used to always say, I swear on my life. And if I ever said I swear on my life, I was telling the fucking truth, because like, there's no way I would have done that, because I used to be a lot more I think you're superstitious in general when you're younger, though, because that's how your mind develops. You don't really develop the ability to think rationally until you're in a sort of a more free space to think. But I used to say I swear on my life, and that's how people would always catch me. Like, if I was ever lying about something, they'd be like, swear on your life, and I'd just be like yeah, I don't want to on this occasion because I might be wrong. It's not like I'm gonna swear on my life about something and then, like, it turns out I was lying, but I turn around and get hit by a bus or something like. But I'm in a swimming pool, so there shouldn't even be a bus in there. But just that's how much that you should never swear on your life. Like, but I think it's the same idea. Like, because touch wood is always said after something bad, isn't it? Like, oh well, no, it isn't. It's said about anything. Well, no, it's
really. Usually touch wood about saying something, like something that could change drastically and possibly, I don't know, just do harm to someone or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's about the best way to describe the touch wood thing.
I think in Ireland they have another please God. They always say like please God or something like that, or God forbid. That's the one.
Oh yeah, God forbid. Yeah.
Yeah, God forbid. It's like, if you were to have a crash, God forbid. Whereas, is that the same application of the term?
Yeah, similarly, yeah. Kind of a worrying, kind of not wanting it to happen.
Yeah, not,
as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, not wanting fate to back you up.
Yeah.
I've just seen one on another list on list25.com, which is probably a lot like BuzzFeed in some way. But this says opening an umbrella indoors. According to superstition, if you open an umbrella indoors, you are literally asking for bad luck to rain on you. And this is one of those ones that is a lot like what's another one like that? Wearing a hat indoors, and it's all that, like, I guarantee that just comes from somebody kept opening an umbrella indoors and it pissed someone off, and then they just said, if you do that again, like,
it'll give you bad luck.
Yeah, like didn't they used to curse people over stuff like that as well, like to stop people from doing certain things that just made no real sense, but they just didn't use an umbrella correctly, and now it's bad luck apparently. Like, that's just, that makes no sense to me. But again, it shouldn't, because it's a superstition and it's irrational anyway. But I'm trying to think of another one along those lines, but I can't really.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard the the thing about opening an umbrella indoors, and on one of the other lists, it's a story of an ancient Roman woman who happened to have opened her umbrella moments before her house collapsed, the tale of a British prince who accepted 2 umbrellas from a visiting king and died within moments. Like, I think it's a case of the superstition arising from a couple of unfortunate things happening to some people, and everyone going, oh, well, that's it then.
Yeah.
It's like if I dropped a cheese sandwich and then I suddenly died, and everyone goes, well, fuck it, don't eat cheese sandwiches anymore.
I like how that's the worst thing you can think of.
Well, I was trying to think of mundane, and nothing says mundane like cheese sandwich. Like,
you don't even have ham in it or anything.
No, just cheese, just 2 pieces of bread and a lump of cheese. But like something like I drop a cheese sandwich and I die, and then someone else drops a cheese sandwich and then gets hit by a bus, and then suddenly it's, oh, don't drop a cheese sandwich, it's bad luck.
Yeah.
It's just things like that, like stupid things that develop these kind of things.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some kind of modern like version of that. That's not quite superstition, but like where someone's tried something a couple of times and just ridiculous things have sort of led it to fail. And for that reason they stop. Like, there's a movie that there's a movie that's people have been it's been funded, it's been in production, it was planned, it's to be filmed in Alaska, but 4 people who expressed their interest in the part have all died, so they just decided not to do it anymore. I want to actually find out a little bit more about that. I only read about it the other day and I can't remember where it was. I'm just gonna Google it real quick.
Well, I know, there's You know, the saying, if you're it's like performing in, if you're performing in Macbeth, it's unlucky to say the name of the play.
Oh
or something
yeah,
like that.
and it's unlucky to say good luck, isn't it? Before.
Yeah, that's why they say, that's why the you know, break a leggers come up as you know, the theatrical kind of good luck.
Yeah, the reason that would that's hold on, the dog is just being a bit of a dick.
So
I want to Google what this movie is anyway. Where did I see this? I'm sure it was Cracked because let's face it, that's the only thing. Oh no, it was on Imager and it was last night. I have it, I think. Shut up! Christ almighty. I feel like I'm very close to finding this now. Unless I've remembered it wrong and it wasn't. It wasn't on Imager at all. You know the way people are doing that movie trivia part on it?
yeah.
Oh, where the fuck is it? This is why the internet is bad. Like, if I'd read this in a textbook, you can guarantee I'd fucking remember what it was. Yes.
Found it.
An Eskimo traveling to America. I'm just gonna get the movie on IMDb up, just see if there's anything. Yeah, I'll just say what I was gonna say about luck. That good luck thing is bullshit, because in Ireland people don't say goodbye, we just say good luck. Like, we don't say good night or anything like that. It's just, if you're leaving, like, you're done with the conversation pretty much, or the interaction with a person for that day, you just say good luck. So if saying good luck was to lead to bad stage production, then there'd never be a good one in Ireland ever. So but the film I was talking about is called Atuk, which is Inuit for grandfather, and it's a screenplay that was based on the 1963 novel The Incomparable Atuk. I hope I'm pronouncing that word right. And it's from the 60s, and the idea for it being a movie has been around since the 80s. Like, there's been propositions for it, there's been scripts written and everything, but every actor who declares interest in the part dies, so they just haven't gone on with it. Like, I don't think that there are any plans to do it anymore. Like, they've just decided that you know, they're done.
Probably
like,
best not to kill any more people.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was just cursed, you know, like just this predestined. Another thing along those lines, I think, is Benfica and the fact that they haven't won a single European trophy since their manager said this club will not win another major European trophy for 100 years after he retired, and they've lost in every final since then. I think they've played in 8 of them overall, and I think that was in '68 that he decided that. So, or sorry, it was actually 50 years ago, which would make it 64. Although, yeah, I don't know, it was some date like that anyways. I'm sure lots of the football fans will correct me, but yeah, that's kind of, you know, you could see, I think that's one of those things though, that, like, you know how I said it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, I'd say it just has its place in their mind, you know what I mean? Like, when they're going into it, they think that, like, that just adds a little bit of extra pressure or whatever to it. Is there any other one that you think is odd, or, well, they're all fucking odd, but
they're all pretty odd, but yeah, like the walking under the ladders thing has always caught me as odd. Like, it sounds more like it should just be common sense instead of
that's
superstition. You know,
that's one that's always made sense.
Why is it you know, but why is it a superstition? Why isn't it not just common sense?
Yeah.
Why it's it's not don't walk under that ladder, someone might drop something on you. It's don't walk under that ladder, it's unlucky.
Yeah, but it's unlucky
What?
because someone's going to drop something on you.
It's unlucky because the builder up there is going to drop a brick on your head.
Yeah.
Like, it's not unlucky. You know, you're not going to walk under it and then you're going to have bad luck for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to walk under it and get hit by something that's falling from the sky. Like,
Yeah. It's definitely it's the laziest one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, of all the superstitions, that one's the laziest.
Yeah, I don't know how it's really a superstition, but it is. Like, you know, that if you were saying to someone, you know, make me a list of superstitions, you know, that on 8 out of 10 times that'd be on the list, and it's like that's not a superstition. It's common sense.
Yeah. There's no
Like-
ladder big enough that walking under it would actually make sense as the logical thing to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like ladders are, ladders are big. They're like they come in all sizes. But let's say a big ladder, it still would make no fucking sense to walk under it. Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Yeah. That one's always kind of, confused me as to why it's a superstition and not just regarded as common sense.
Yeah, that's like like I'm very superstitious about certain things. Like I'll never jump headfirst into a volcano because I hear that's pretty bad for you.
Yeah.
It's like you should be teaching people not about bullshit superstitions involving ladders or whatever. Like just teach them to just the common sense of not walking under a fucking
Yeah.
ladder because it's gonna be bad news.
Yeah.
What's the story with the rabbit's foot one? I've never known this. I've always heard of it, I've
Yeah.
always heard references to it, but I haven't a fucking clue what it is. Like,
No, I'm really not sure. I mean, just on the live science thing, it says rabbits' feet are talismans. May hark back to early Celtic tribes in Britain. They also arrive from hoodoo, a form of African American folk magic, a superstition that blends Native American, European, and African tradition.
so that's
like,
a pretty, that's a big one.
That's a pretty non-answer.
Yeah.
It might stem from this, but then again,
I have another description of it here that says, to have this token is an unfortunate thing for the rabbit, but a magnet of fortune for the wearer. According to superstition, which can be traced as far back as the 7th century BC, the rabbit's supernatural look could be exploited by taking the left hind foot of a rabbit that was shot or captured in a creepy cemetery on a full moon. I still fail to see how this is lucky for the rabbit. Yeah, I don't.
what?
Is the premise I don't even understand how it's lucky. Do you know what I mean? Is it that you actually take the foot off the rabbit and keep it for yourself? Is that what they're suggesting here?
I think so. I mean, if say it was like it's only lucky if you actually manage to catch a wild rabbit with your bare hands, then yeah, sure. I mean, that might be lucky because you're already apparently pretty quick and agile and stealthy enough to catch a fucking rabbit.
Yeah.
Like, rabbits are pretty quick.
Yeah, they
you know,
are.
like, especially wild ones. They're not going to let you get anywhere near them. But like, just buying a bog standard rabbit's foot, I don't know. In what way is it lucky? It's pretty unlucky, if anything.
Yeah.
It's dead.
Yeah. That one doesn't even. It just doesn't none of the superstitions make sense because they're all irrational. But the concept doesn't make sense to me. Do you know, the basis of it doesn't make sense to me. That nothing about it makes any sense to me. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. If I was so unlucky that, or if someone killed me and took my foot, I wouldn't kind of think, or if someone just chopped my foot off, I wouldn't kind of think, lucky for you. No, that's not good logic. If anything, I'm pretty unlucky because you've taken my foot away from me.
Yeah.
And now you've got part of my bad luck in the foot that you stole from me.
Yeah.
I just don't like. It's lost on me. The logic is lost on me.
Yeah, same. Like that, I can make excuses and allowances for a lot of them, but that one is just. There's another one that I actually have a tiny anecdote about. Is itchy palms. The idea that it refers to wealth in some way. But I'm reading that's actually a. There's a lot of variations on it, and some people think that an itchy palm refers to greed or you want money. Yeah, that's just greed, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's always been told to me that if your palm itches, it means that you're gonna come across money, and I know this is because like, you know, the hypochondria, like, or hypochondriac type thing. I used to worry an awful lot if I had the slightest thing wrong with me. I didn't have, like, I wasn't a hypochondriac, but I definitely did, like, worry, you know, like, if I had a headache, like, maybe it was like something wrong with my brain or whatever. And you can tell, like, the internet has been rough to me, because every time I've googled what's wrong with me, and I end up learning that I'm pregnant for the 50th fucking time. But yeah, like, I remember one day saying to my mum, like, my hand is itchy, and then she said, that just means you're going to come across money. And I think that this whole concept of superstition has come across from just parents telling their kids to shut the fuck up. Like, hey, you're gonna come across money, now shut the hell up and deal with it.
Because no one's gonna go, oh shit, not again, more money. Yeah,
exactly.
Someone's gonna go, oh, my hand's a bit itchy, sweet, money. Like, it's this weird kind of association that has been bred into people now.
Yeah, and there's another thing that, you know, if something weirdly fortunate happens to you in one day, like I don't know, you manage to throw your bottle from one side of the room to the other, and it goes into the bin perfectly, and you feel good about it, then you're more inclined to do a bet. You're more inclined to take a little bit of a risk. You know, you're more inclined to do the lottery, because you feel like you've already, you feel like you've already, like, got
luck on your side.
Yeah. You've made a withdrawal from the luck bank that exists in this superstitious realm of reality that you end up kind of dragging yourself into, and that's just the way that it works, and that's really weird as well.
Yeah.
But I can relate to pretty much all of the ones relating to gambling. There's one about beginner's luck. Yeah. And that's, you know, I know exactly what that is. That's the thing that I feel like I have a strong, like, capacity for. I know on the very first episode we talked about a particular casino in London. I remember we went there, and you gambled on roulette. Was it roulette that you played?
Yeah, I think so.
And you lost, and I didn't play that night, but I went there a couple of weeks later, and I played roulette, and I won a fuckload of money for what I gambled, and that, like, I'd never be able to do that again. I feel like it was just beginner's luck, and, you know, I know it wasn't. It's just, I feel like sometimes if you go into something with this mentality that you're just going to do well because you don't know the rules, and I think that's especially powerful to me, because I am a thinker. I like to overthink pretty much everything. So the less I know about it, the less I can overthink it, and the more I can just do it to the best of my ability, from a kind of natural perspective, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I look at that. So I think beginner's luck is kind of a thing. Yeah,
I think beginner's luck as well will come from, you know, you won't notice the loss as much. Yeah. Like, you know, because say you've just started, you're playing, let's say roulette for the first time. Seeing as roulette seems to be my go-to gambling. Yeah. You know, my gambling thing. But say you're playing roulette for the first time, and you lose one, and then you think, no big deal. It's only one, and then you kind of win the next one, and then you win one after that, and you're 2-1 up, you know, and you're winning, and you'll forget the fact that you lost the first one, because winning has a lot more of a kind of interesting and enjoyable, feeling, yeah, on what happens. So, you know, you could do kind of negate and neglect the whole idea of losing because you've won a couple, you know, you've won some, you know.
Yeah, that is actually, like, that is really true. I think you have this, I think there's a sort of capacity for the brain to do as it wants to do, and like, if you go in head first into the deep end of something that you know nothing about, most of the time you're likely to fail. But when you do get it right, you do feel like the planets have just or the stars have aligned in your favor, and that it's something that you've done. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of things like that sort of, I would imagine, come from the same side of the brain. Like, there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I've told you about this before, haven't I?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, have I ever talked about it on the podcast? I don't think I have, but when I explain this to you, like, you'll think of people in your class that this applies to. You'll think of people that you know in real life that this applies to, and their names will come to your head straight away. But it's this idea that people who are not as good at something as, let's say, the average person or whatever, like they're not as skilled at a particular field than they think they are, but they have what's called illusory superiority, which just makes them believe that they're better at something that they are. And it's like a combination of a lack of intelligence or a lack of skill set to deal with a certain thing, and a massive amount of confidence.
Yeah.
And it just makes them excel at something despite not being as good at it as anybody else around them, but they just happen to be really good at it. And I know a lot of people are going to have YouTubers in their heads that they're like, because everybody has that question, like, how are they this popular about some YouTuber? Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't even know anything about football. Like, that's one I see thrown around a lot. But that's the thing that I think would probably come from the same level of thinking that gives you beginner's luck. Is that you go in there with this sense of, well, I'm the beginner, I've got beginner's luck on my side. I'm not going to be able to overthink anything because I don't know anything about what's going on. I'm just going to do it and probably win. And I think that happens a lot. Like another thing I've just thought of, I've just clocked onto, which probably happens in some highbrow. Is that a word, highbrow? That's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
In some highbrow casinos, they probably fix it so that the winner does, the beginner does win, so that they will keep gambling. You know, like.
I mean, I think that, especially with gambling, people are going in to gamble. Like, that's what they're going in to do, and they're aware that if they lose, they lose, and that winning is, kind of this euphoric feeling.
Yeah.
Unless obviously you're addicted, and then winning loses all interest, really.
Yeah.
But you're kind of aware that you get this endorphin rush, you get this adrenaline rush where you've just won money that you all you had to do was put a chip on a table and you've just won money. And it's as easy as that. And bang, and beginner's luck, we've talked a lot about people believing in beginner's luck, but then people who are getting beaten, and say in like poker games and stuff, people will dismiss their bad luck as other people's beginner's luck.
Yeah. That's
and it's
true,
not, and it's not that you didn't play an intelligent game or that you had bad luck. It's that someone else had beginner's luck.
Yeah, someone else's luck
almost,
outweighed
yours.
And
it's passing on. It's almost pointing the finger, passing on the blame. You're not to blame. It's not your fault that you don't have beginner's luck.
Yeah,
it's their fault you lost because they have beginner's luck.
Yeah, it's an attempt to rationalize a situation by using irrational thinking.
Yeah, your own. Just completely forgetting your own bad luck because their good luck outweighs yours.
That's gambling is the most interesting way to observe how
human behavior.
They're just the weird psychological vices I think that people have. Like that, the Dunning-Kruger effect makes people overestimate their ability to the point where they actually achieve what they believed that they could achieve despite not having the skill set. It is a hypothesis as far as I know. Like,
I think with the Dunning-Kruger effect, I think that's also a big part of fake it. The saying "fake it till you make it."
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing, and it's like people say that if you're say a white guy over the age of about 20. If you pretend that, if you act like you're meant to be somewhere, nobody will question your presence there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's true. If you look like you belong, people will assume you do.
Yeah.
This kind of, that kind of psychology, and if you believe that you belong there, and if you believe that you are good at something, eventually, either the scales will tip in your favour for luck, and people will view it as you being actually, talented at something.
Yeah.
Or, you will just generally get to that point where you are good enough at it.
It's sort of like the opposite, it's sort of like the placebo effect, except travelling in a different direction on the scale of how it affects you. Do you know what I mean? Like, the placebo effect is the idea that you take a fucking Tic Tac, but enough people tell you that it's something else, that it cures you, and it's just because the brain wants it. And that's sort of what you just said there about if you feel like you belong somewhere and you act like you belong somewhere, you just end up making it. Like, I have a story about this happened 6 months ago, New Year's Eve. I was out with my friend Steve, who is in the band Code Line, and it is relevant to this story, and that's why I say it, and I'm sorry that I mention it so much, but he's one of my best friends, so
Deal with it.
Yeah, he's in my life a lot. But we were out just in the pub, not really planning anything for New Year's Eve. Like, the last few New Year's Eves, I've never really done anything big. But I was out with Steve and a few of my other mates, but we ended up going to a VIP section of a huge nightclub in Ireland where like I'm not gonna fuck around, like everyone who was there was somebody, you know. They mightn't have been somebody to you. Like, there's a thing over here called California, which is...
Yep, I've seen California.
Yeah, so that's
that magical program.
Yeah, it's the Jersey Shore of Ireland. I've never seen a single episode, but all the people from that, well, no, a few of the people from that were there. There was Brian McFadden was there. You know, but other, like,
so Irish, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, people who are somebodies, but the thing is, like, all the good celebrities who are Irish just don't stay in Ireland because that's who they're surrounded by. But yeah, like, they were all there, and I was dressed in, like, I was wearing jeans, trainers, and a t-shirt that said it said, like, your story was so amazing and everything, now fuck off and stop bothering me. That's what my t-shirt said. People buy me t-shirts because they think I'm the type of person that needs to have a t-shirt that says what I'm thinking, because like, apparently I don't do that enough when I talk. But that's what happens. That's the t-shirt I was wearing. Like, I could not have looked more out of place in my head. But you know, I was a few drinks in, I was like hanging around with my friends, and we were just having a good time, just making the most out of it. And the amount of people who approached me and acted as if I was somebody, do you know what I mean? Like, spoke to me as if I was in the same field as them, and spoke to me as if, like, one guy was asking me who my agent was. Like, it was that level of, I just happened to be there and made the most of it, and because of that, people thought that I belonged there. But on any other day, nobody would, you know what I mean? It just happened along that way, and that's, I don't know, that's pretty weird, but I've just for the first time equated it to that, what you were talking about.
I'm just gonna throw out another fun story. It's not completely linked, but it's quite a funny story of trying to just you know, act natural, as it were, you know, and pretend that it's completely normal happening. But we were playing I was playing pub golf with a few of my mates, and pretty much everyone had dropped out, and it was three of us left.
Do you want to explain what pub golf is?
Pub golf is it's an awfully brilliant thing. You dress up like twats, and you go on an 18 pub crawl, where each pub is a different like golfing hole, and you have a par for a certain drink that you have to finish the drink in. So say like Guinness is par 4, so you've got to finish it in 4 mouthfuls or 4 attempts. And you get the idea, and you just go on an 18 pub crawl. So we were on our way back, carrying one of our mates who is essentially unconscious, lying on the floor, you know, throwing up into the gutter, all that good stuff, you know, healthy drinking, and kind of, you know, and he's lying on the floor at this point, and my mate's pissing against a closed shop or whatever. We weren't being responsible adults, and I don't agree with what we were doing, but anyway.
We spoke about that before the call, about how we're not adults at all.
And this police car comes past, and of course, one of my mates has just finished pissing against a shop, you know, the shop shutters, and one other mate is paralytic drunk, essentially. And, you know, that's enough reason for the police to stop and kind of, you know, get you know, an ambulance or whatever, etc. involved.
Yeah. And
I kind of looked at the police and I waved. Just the most nonchalant wave I could manage. And the fuckers waved back at me.
That's
and
brilliant.
Kept driving. And it's like, just act as if nothing was wrong. Just, you know, hello. And they just kind of waved back and carried on driving, and it was fine from there.
That's amazing. I wish I could be that cool. You know, like, I would never pull that off. I'd be so concerned that I'd wave funnily that I would actually just wave funnily. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure if there was something nearby, I would have leaned on it with one arm and just kind of waved with the other. You know.
And put your sunglasses on.
Yeah, just afternoon officers.
I have a story that's the complete opposite of that. I was in Seville with two of my mates, Dave and Andy, which is just the most typical like lad names ever, isn't it? Like, oh, just Dave and Andy.
Dave and Andy.
But they're both from the estate that I live in Dublin, and we've known each other years and everything. And Dave moved to Amsterdam, no, not Amsterdam, Breda in the Netherlands a few years ago. And you know, we were catching up in Spain. We were going to a few Bruce Springsteen concerts, just doing what your average 45-year-old American man does. But we were in this Scottish pub in Seville, which was actually a Celtic pub, and I was wearing a Celtic jersey because it was a Celtic pub. Not one person even noticed. Like, that's how little influence anywhere in the outside world has in Seville. But my mates got absolutely destroyed. In Spain, they keep the pubs open till like 5 a.m.
Nice.
Like, man, Seville is the greatest place in the world. Every single woman there was just a solid 10 out of 10, like, and they're all just really, really nice people as well. But yeah, like, my mates got destroyed. They were doing shots, and I can do shots, but I choose not to because I nearly died once, and that's another story for another day. But we were like, I started drinking again. I picked up drinking around 3 o'clock after about 2 hours of just drinking water and Coke, just because I wanted to not be really hungover. But Andy and Dave just didn't do that at all. They just kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and eventually we got like kicked out of the pub at like 5 in the morning, and the sun was coming up and everything, and Dave went for a piss up against a tree in the middle of the road, and it was so early that the bread vans had started delivering the bread to the news agents, you know. And like, Dave was having a piss and turned around and saw a white van drive past and shouted, "Oh my god, it's the feds!" And just quickly zipped up and legged it around the corner. And I don't know why that, like, that's just the funniest thing. Like, you know, all he had to do was be cool. He's in a foreign city pissing up against a tree. Like, you know, that's a horrible thing to do. But he couldn't even keep quiet about it. Like, he sees a bread van and starts shouting about the feds. What? The feds are the federal, like, they only exist in America. Like, do you know what I mean? Such a fucking hilarious reaction for him to have. Like, he didn't even finish his piss. He just zipped up and legged it. Like, oh, it's the feds. Just such a ridiculous fucking. But if he had acted cool, no one would have, you know, said anything.
No one would have cared. I think, have we gone sufficiently off topic?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so as well.
We have nothing left, do we?
No, I'm pretty much.
Would you like to hear about my dream? From 6 days ago. This was. Do you remember when somebody tweeted us the other day asking us to talk about a parallel universe? This, like, I don't know, right? Like, this was the 31st of May. I had this dream, and I wrote it down after it happened, because you know how sometimes dreams can be very emotive and they make you cry. So, right, I was on a spaceship with two other people. We were part of a crew, a delivery company, traveling through planets, delivering stuff. Pretty much like my ideal dream base here. Like, we were parked on some moon repairing our spaceship, and I heard the dog barking because it's a dream, and that makes sense. But he barks in real life when there's someone at the door. So he was obviously barking in real life, but I was in such a sleep that I could stay asleep while still hearing the dog bark and incorporate that into the dream. And I said to the people in the crew, he only ever barks when there's somebody at the door. So I looked out the window of the spaceship, and there was all these alien motherfuckers with guns. So they started shooting at the spaceship, but we weren't finishing our repairs. Like, we didn't repair it properly. So the spaceship went into like light speed or hyperspace or whatever. But because it was in bad need of repairs, it only half worked. Like, we only got to like half speed or whatever, and ended up crashing on some planet that looked an awful lot like Earth. Like, there were humans and traffic lights and buses and just normal Earth stuff, except everyone spoke in this really crazy dialect. And I think I know why this was as well, was because I listened to a podcast about languages and how, you know, like Beowulf is actually in English, but it's pronounced like that's how the people spoke, and I think that's just because it was fresh in my mind, but that's how they all spoke, and it made no sense to me. And I in the dream I just figured out, I basically solved the mystery that because the ship was broken, we landed in a parallel universe,
Yeah.
a parallel Earth, and then it got really
Parallel.
weird because it started like there was a huge accident at some guy's house, right? Like a car crashed into it or something. Just we were walking down the street observing the whole world, what it was, and a car crashed into a house, and it was like Earth except just a little bit weird. Like everyone was on LSD, or you were on LSD, like depending on
Yeah.
what way you look at it. But one of the guys on my crew, from the spaceship, like thought that it was an act of aggression from the locals when they crashed the car into the house. So he ran over and set fire to the car, which blew the house up. But the natives of the Earth-like place thought that if you deface someone's property, it means that they've done something really bad. Like, you know the way people write drug dealer scum on people's houses,
Yeah.
or you know they cover
Yeah.
their house in paint if they're a pedophile. That's what they thought this to mean. So the fact that he blew
Right.
up a car near their house, they thought that it meant that the guy who owned the house was a criminal, so he got arrested for it. And this is the for those of you still listening and keeping track, like this is the only reason that I want to tell this story is because it's so fucking weird, right? But it turned out that the guy in the house that got arrested for doing nothing was the manager of a football club. And they were like Borussia Dortmund. They wore the same kit. Like, we went to their house because we were on a bus, and the local or the native people came over, and like one of them happened to speak English, which just took me by surprise. And I figured she must have also been a time jumper or whatever.
Yeah.
But she told me, like, this guy has lost his job, and it's all because of you. Like, I'm going to show you the life that you've ruined. And this was a manager who'd led his team on a 4-year unbeaten streak and won the triple diamond, whatever that is, 2 seasons in a row. I don't know what it is, but yeah, like I found out that he lost his was partly responsible for him losing his job, and I started crying, like really badly crying. And I have, like, for context, I haven't cried in over 5 years. Like, I swear to God, I haven't cried since I was a teenager. But I was crying in the dream, and I woke up and there was tears in my eyes, and all because I lost a fictional manager his fictional job at some fictional sport that I don't even know what it was, in a fucking crazy parallel universe. And like that's the weirdest dream I've ever had, because it was like an episode of The Outer Limits where it was all supposed to make sense in some roundabout way, but I was crying over somebody losing their job. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, you know,
I'm not even sure I have words for any of that anymore. Like, you lost me about 5 minutes ago as to what happened, but
yeah, man, like, it was just, I don't know. Like, I'm watching too much Futurama and Firefly and Star Trek, and I don't know what's happening to my mind, but that's an actual dream I had, and it was over the course of about 20 minutes as well, because I remember I woke up at like 9:44. I went back to sleep, and then when I woke up again, it was like 10:16, which is like what? It's like half an hour, 32 minutes. But yeah, that's. Did I just do really fast maths? Correct? Yeah, probably. Anyway,
yeah.
I thought I'd share my dream with you and everyone else, just because I want some validation.
That's something. Certainly, something. I don't know what, but it's something.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's alright.
Thank you for acknowledging that it was a thing.
It's definitely a thing. I'm not sure what, but it's a thing.
Well, at the end of the day, that's all I really wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show once again.
No worries. It was fun.
Yeah, this was a good one, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had fun.
But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. We love you all, truly, with all of our hearts. I would cry if you all lost your jobs. I've been Eldeniro.
Yep, I've been not Jack. Yes, I've been Jack. Whatever. I don't know what happened there. Like, I just ran out of words in my brain. Like, Jesus
you know when people say you had one job. Like,
yeah, I had one. All I had to do was say my name.
Yeah, that's all you had left to do.
I don't know what happened.
Alright, fuck this. We're out.